Welcome, everybody. I see a couple new faces, so I'm really happy because this is the first time we're featuring our printed version of the anthology. For those of you who've been to other of these events, you know the drill. You know we're reading, four people are reading, then we'll take pause. Some people will go drink gin and tonic. Some people will go smoke, then we'll come back for the second half. And we have a combination of poets and prose writers, some of whom are published already, so that makes me envious. We're going to start with our guest of honor, though, Patrick Arrington, whose CV is too extensive for me to read out loud. It's longer than the anthology, so I have the spark. He's a Canadian-born poet, critic, translator, and he's keeps participating in magazines, journals, and anthologies like the Iowa Review, Oxford Poetry, and Coppernickel. And he's also a graduate from the University of Alberta, the University of St. Andrews, and Columbia University, and has recently won a prize. So you should definitely look that up. There's a reading as well from that prize, and it's fantastic. So I'll say no more. Patrick, please come up here.
Thank you so much. This is it's such an honor to be here. Having it right next to this incredible artifact that you've managed to put together. Oh, I don't know if how much those of you who have been on the sort of not in the midst of this have been able to tell from the outside. You don't, I think, realize just how much work that goes into making a book like this. And really, it's been an astonishing thing to have a brief glimpse now and again into the inside workings of it. So incredibly well done, everybody on the team. I'm so impressed with all of the work that you've managed to put into this year. I'm not going to take up very much of your time. Obviously, we want to get to the good stuff. I'm going to read actually a poem that's not mine to start with. I was thinking, I don't know how to start these kinds of things. It's a lot of responsibility to kick this off. And so I figured I would leave it actually to one of my teachers, since I've been thinking about, say, teaching. So one of your grand teachers, if you will. This is a poem by a poet and translator named Richard Howard, who was a teacher of mine at Columbia University, which is a place that's been in the news recently, not for particularly good things. Anyways, this poem is about translation. I've been also working on translation quite a lot recently. So yeah, I don't think it needs much explaining. La chose allemande is French for the German thing, which is a reference to the Second World War. So I suppose that's worth clarifying. And it takes place in the 1960s. Richard Howard worked and translated in the 1960s in Paris. This is another translator. The first one just happened to be there. A little like Everest or the General's Nose, remarkable eminences both. It also happened to be me, a daunted witness of that weird Parisian ritual of the 60s, a de Gaulle press conference, summoned since I was in Paris at the time and had been his or one of his paraphrases of prose concerned with what the General preferred to call untranslatably la chose allemande. The occasion was particularly rare because Madame de Gaulle was at his side, and even rarer, willing to answer questions, provided, of course, such inquiries observed the mandates of presidential privacy. Of course. But after several anodyne approximations of politesse on the part of the Fourth Estate, a Herald Tribune reporter brought proceedings to a heart-stopping halt. What do you regard, Madame de Gaulle, as the chief significance of life? And with a sad smile, after a moment, Yvonne de Gaulle, whose life had, after all, included the death of a soldier's son at the same German thing, flabbergasted us all by speaking 3 syllables. A penis. And with an interval of no more than 5 seconds, a hand with perhaps military promptitude descended on her shoulder. I believe the English word you mean, ma chérie, is pronounced happiness. having made mistakes like that in French all of the time when I was living in Paris, I feel like it's nice to be able to share other mistakes that are not mine. I'm going to just read one of my own poems. This is from the book The Swailing that came out last year. Unfortunately, it's not a funny or happy one, so I'm going to just a roller coaster of emotions just now. But hopefully will help usher in everybody else tonight. I'm very much looking forward to hearing all of the readers tonight. So thank you very much for listening. This is a poem called Only Time, and it begins with an epigraph from Virgil's Georgics, which is the scene in which Eurydice is speaking to Orpheus. No more these helpless hands. This is only time. Maybe there are enough words that on a night so like tonight, the snow sifting fine as sand between the cedars needs nothing, seems to me an awful lot like proof that this line and the fire break I often walk behind a tenement should eventually fold back, leaving the whole empires unprinted, wild with fox and winter. That each sentence should end in bequest, like small felt boxes, each second clicking open. That I can still touch, reach out from here where the dark begins to wear thin on the dawn, that you might, for just a moment, look back. Quietly, like time, you have so much to tell. Thank you all.
Much. With you in a second, let me just find Ali's bio. Should be here. Getting older, and I need bifocals. Vanity prevents me from getting them. I'll be there. Oh, okay. Awi Chin is a writer, poet, and model.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for people who are just listening at home. His debut novel, Tang Tak Punjong Usai, which I just butchered, The River Flows in You, was published in 2020, garnered critical acclaim, and is currently being translated into English. He has also published a short story collection and 2 more novels in Indonesia. His short story and poetry have been published in Australia and Hawaii. He was selected as an emerging writer at the prestigious Ubud Writer and Reader Festival in 2022. And he recently completed a writing residency in Sweden right before the year, further enriching his creative. He's currently taking this MSc with us at the University of Edinburgh, and that is paid for by the Chevening Scholarship. So give it up for Mr. Awi Chin. I was a model, nothing. Thank you so much. This is my first time having my work published in English. I mean, not my first time, but the first time not being translated, because I'm mostly working in Indonesian, and I just started writing in English when I came here, so it's been challenging because it's very different. We don't have cases, we don't have pronoun, things like that. So it's really challenging for me. This is actually my work in progress. I'm reading a novel, currently writing a novel, and this is like an excerpt from the novel itself. Hopefully it can get published here, because I don't think it can get published in Indonesia based on the themes. I'm talking to it could have been a perfect world. It felt like I could only kiss him in the darkness. I heard the sound of the waves from the distance,
The night sent the melody of darkness to my room, traversing through every grain of sand and petals of my me. I kissed his forehead this time. Then in the reflection of the lonely moon resting his body, I saw his silhouette. He asked me, whisper to me softly, what's on your mind? You, I whispered back at him, what's on yours? Bunch of things, such as, the probabilities of us. What could have been between us? Tell me. He didn't reply, but rather he took a deep breath, as if his silence could entangle the secrets that this universe holds, and that silence could tell me the what else. I was not the type of man that could wait. I knew that for sure, but it was not like him as well to take his time like this. So I stayed silent. I could hear our breath dancing in the air, creating a symphony of salvation. In another world, we can kiss on the beach and hold each other's hands in the street. Our love will be celebrated. We do not have to hide in darkness. In another world, your family will still be complete. Your father and brother will still be alive. Who knows, maybe they will accept you the way you were, the way you are, and what will become of you. And in that world, this country did not kill my family. We will still live happily together. Maybe I won't grow up to be a cynical man like this, and you could meet the happier version of me. In another world, your broken English would not be a problem. We can share our feelings with no words, no language, no grammar offenses borrowed from foreign languages. In another world, we were fireflies, flashing our lights to guide each other home. We were each other home before our sparks gently faded out. Or we were a dolphin, mating for a life, raging the sea from the north to the south, through the depths of the ocean, coming back once a year to land to commemorate our beginning, never our end. We were wanderers in another world, and this realm is our playground. We venture into the storm, brave the waves, and conquer the oceans. To the horizon where one line of one blue meets another blue. That's where we come from. In another world, falling in love with you would be so easy with no consequences. Because like the meaning of your name, Ida bagus gede karmisan karang sawari surya. You bring light in everything that you touch, even when you leave and night comes without invitation. People will always remember the way you shine, the way you gave them warmth. In another world, there's no falling down, only touch. He stopped his imagination, and the night silence crept into us. In a perfect world, we would be together, I added, but not in this one. We could, but those words lingered in the back of my mind, lost in my desperation. I could not make him stay, but at least we could let go of each other in a kind ending. I let my lips greet his in a despairing attempt. My room suddenly felt so strange. In every breath I took in that kiss, I felt love and despair coming in and out like the dawn and dust in this island of death. Our kiss stopped, and our sight lingered in each other. Loving him would be so easy, but there is no place for us. It felt like I was only allowed to kiss him in the darkness, but darkness was all with me. Thank you. Thank you, Mama.
Very much, Howie. Our next reader is here. Rebecca Harrison was born in Bristol and lived there in the same house with her parents and brother for nearly her entire life until she moved to Birmingham in 2019 to start her undergraduate degree in English literature. And after graduating, she moved back to Bristol and started a temporary office job, which she didn't like as much. So she decided to join us as a creative writing MSc, and here we are. If you were hoping for more uplifting, this is it. But it's really good.
You're starving almost all the time, and you will never remember the moments before. You are lean and worried, and your eyes dim. You will never know how they enhance the bear and the blow. You stalk the streets in search of supper. You will never understand that people want to kill you for it. Here are the things you do know. You were born blind and shivering in a hole in the ground. This hole was beneath a shed of rotten wood and rusting hinges. Your body could not make its own heat for weeks after, so you curled close to your mother and lived off hers. You were, in these days, a language thing, half killed by the act of creation. A month later, you were bounding out from underground, a limber, liquid creature of russet claws and canine jaws. This month was your first, and nearly only, season of plenty. You played with your sisters for hours at a time and slept for the hours in between. You were not a hunter yet, you were a mouth that your mother dropped food into, so a meal was not a bloody, violent thing, but an act of love. There was fresh grass all around, soft against the pads of your feet. Your world was small, sheltered, and you knew satisfaction more intimately than anything. Past. Suddenly, the den was too hot to bear, and your body was doubled in length in all directions. The grass of your little home was drying out beneath the sun, no longer a comfort against your skin, but almost painful. Another month, and your mother was as thin as you are now. New notions were forming in her. Every meal dropping into your mouth was a meal dropping from her own. You did not see it coming. You thought, when she came towards you teeth first, that she had come to bring you a raw carcass as she had so many times before. Perhaps she had come to make you a carcass. You limped as you ran from her, fur peeled back to show your pink pearlescent flesh beneath. Only a few months after this, your mother was dead. But you do not know that. You did know a whole new world of smells. You were sore for a while, and sad, though you did not know the word for it. But once the pain had passed and the sorrow had flattened, you began to roam. You learnt to track where your family's lands began and ended with your nose. You learnt to stalk and kill birds, in theory. In reality, you thought very little, still encumbered as you were by the inelegance of coverage. You learnt to regard your sisters as rivals. They were far more successful hunters than you. You learnt to pick through rubbish for the best scraps. You knew no shame as you did this because there was no shame. There was chicken. Your fur grew long and thick, the days compacted, winter threatened you with her white and icy heat. You were an adult, grown now, and you knew you had lingered in the territories your family had called home for too long. It was an automatic knowledge, like eating had been. You woke and loped along the night-dim streets with hopes of finding somewhere new and warm and brimming. You passed one of your sisters along the way, and her jaws parted, just a little, a meek farewell. All you saw in that moment were the tiny little points of her canines and the healthy flush of her gums. You would miss her constraint. Instead of something brimming, for a while what you found was nothing short of threadbare. Pathetic trees, slim pickings, shallow pots of dirt too hard and dry for a den. And then you found what was to you a veritable buffet, all neatly packaged in black plastic. There was a garden near enough as well, one that held the sun's attention all through the afternoon. You will never know why the man whose litter you foraged through tried to kill you, but you learnt from him the taste and torment of poison. You were sick for days, blind and shivering beneath the ground once more. You forgot what it was like to be empty of pain. You wanted your mother, despite her violence. You missed your sisters. You longed for sweet spring grass and the freshness of youth. You survived, barely, and had no choice but to move again. So you set off in search for a newer home. The snows fell and lay on the ground, becoming grey and rotting patches. You embraced cold as a state of being. You scrapped and strove for your survival, drinking and sinking your teeth into whatever came to you. There was no softness to you anymore. You had hardened into a creature that arrests the hearts and minds of so many people, who makes them feel seen and known and filthy and small. You came to another garden, exhausted. You had not known rest for what seemed like nearly your whole existence. You lay down, you slept. When you woke, someone had left a bowl of food in front of you. A child watched you through a garden window, and you watched him right back. You ate and rested, and from sunrise you moved on. After this, you began not just surviving, but thriving, running, lurching, sunning yourself on empty pavements, heart alive with the scent of the wildflower and the humming of the bee, mind alive with that thing's cunning, also with an unadulterated joy. One day soon you would starve again, but not yet. You went back to that place in which you had been born, back to the shed of rotting wood and rusting hinges. You rested there a while, content. You rest there now.
Let's move on to our third reader. I have trouble pronouncing some names. So, Kayla. Kayla hails from Georgia, always in my mind, and holds a bachelor's degree in creative writing. So it's not her first time. Unfortunately, it's masochistic. From a tiny liberal arts college. They're on a mission to collect degrees in writing, clearly. She writes poetry and way too many novels, and sometimes not happy with writing poetry and novels. She writes novels in verse. Her poem Marlborough was published in October 2023 in that issue of Delta Poetry Review under her sometimes pseudonym K. Cutlass. They love cats, Maltesers, and curating highly specific playlists for their works. Don't we all?
Required that you have to say on my mind, I can say gorgeous. This never gets any less scary. Oh, I gotta know that. This is still unfortunately I'm starting sad poetry. Sad. This first one is called Nostos, which is the Greek mythology idea of a homecoming that the hero has. And I wanted to flip it on its head and make it sad because I always do that. And so this is kind of about what do you do when there's not really a homecoming and there's not a good homecoming. It's called Nostos. I stand among the ruins to feel the ground shake with newborn cries. I was born here, made here, cursed here. My feet are called to a corner wreckage. I kick a chunk of concrete. It skips like a flat rock on creek water. Where it lands, I look. Up a few floors, imagine begrudging doctors dragging their feet to my mother's room. It seemed that I was ready to join this world, but no one was ready for me. I can almost hear my newborn self begging to crawl back inside my mother. The hospital, the first place I am from, is gone. Now we're going to end on a happier note. Thankfully, I apologize. This one, I mean, the intro is going to make it not sound happy. I went for an awful bout of insomnia back in November, and I got a poem out of it. So all that matters. This one's called "What If the Sun Rises Is Sad That I Am Not Watching." I tell my doctor that I can't focus, and he tells me I should sleep more, but I think I spend too much time in bed. It wasn't my goal to watch every sunrise in Scotland, but I'm on such a streak now that I might as well continue. I tell him, yes, I'll try to sleep more, but I don't say when. It won't be during the night because those hours are reserved for staring at walls and hearing my flatmate in the kitchen well after midnight. I'm not alone, at least. And wondering why the birds are singing at 2 a.m. My friend in Atlanta realizes the hour and says, I forgot you don't sleep. And I said, I do, as if she or I would believe that lie for even a second. My friends in Japan wake when I'm only beginning to wind down, and I fall asleep only when they have gone to lunch. Time is such a fickle thing, I tell the doctor. Sometimes I want more of it, others I want less. I could have both if I could just stop watching the sunrise. But I've never had freedom quite like this, to watch the sunrises if I please. They're beautiful. I think I need to see a few more before I quit. One more before I go. Thank you, guys.
On that note, one more before we go. Our fourth writer and last of this first round. Leah Levy is a poet. Leah, sometimes also called Leah, I think, is a poet, writer, and editor from Ontario, Canada. So Canada is being well represented tonight. She attained her undergraduate degree and in honors English and creative writing. So, yeah, graduating with great distinction. Her poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Art Poetry magazine, The Student, and Inkwell. Her research article on constraint poetry and disability was published in the You Will Discover journal and received several undergraduate awards. She was the third place winner of the 2023 Vera Manuel Award for Poetry and was shortlisted the Gridlit 2023 short story for the 2023 short story contest. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna read 4 poems tonight, but it's okay because they're all very, very short. So bear with me. The first 2 are in the book. This one is called On Rewriting and Rewriting. I could write about the dementia. It starves my grandma to be sane. Smiling, she eats her simple social routine. She eats mechanically when she forgets what it is to be hungry. She eats until her stomach ruptures and forgets she can put the fork down. I could write about the need to leave. It unfastens my older sister from me. The room we used to share is an echoing, acrylics dripping over her murals that mildew on the wall. I could compress it all into thinly papered lifetimes. I could write about the many summers. It took me all of them to relearn how to write. A whole season I washed over my face with its suds, lay out drying for 8 hours and woke up still with no words. Dunked my wrists in the ink of dawn and pulled them out pruned and worn. I could write about old sickness in the new city. At the Royal Infirmary, hear 11 needles squelch as they fill the air with my blood. In the unrolling waiting room, we all bend next trying to see each other's lesions. We wonder if we are waiting out the same diseases. I could write a final poem and title it and wrap it in my scent. I would still have fallen short, spitting out lost words sunken under my tongue. You could read it and forget the page and my name, and I could write it in synonyms all over again. This next one is called Gourd Gouge, and it's a little bit weird, so I'm sorry. I cut you open like butternut squash, and you spill measly orange fluids out. I squish you crumbly between sticky palms and lay in wait for you to scream. You squeak. You scald your body soft in warm puree, translucent, squeeze it dripping into my hands. Every sentence you groan reeks of you succumbing, eyes insulated, unseen between your flickering eyelids. I cut them open in slits. Okay, this next one is called Elena, and it's about memory and forgetting stuff. I forget how to pronounce my middle name. Every couple of months, I ask my mom or sister to say it so I can remember. I forget my own age and lie by mistake when I give the wrong number. I forget to forget the worst memories and wake up wet and shivering. Kerosene on my skin, damp like any other day. Remnants nestled in a place too behind myself to reach. Memorabilia on every surface. Under my bed, in the jackets of hard covers, taped onto my shelves. Polaroids, tickets, juvenilia. Words defined by their taste without sound, chewing their slips of memory, sheets caught in my teeth. Sound leaves them misplace every syllable, unswallowed. My life in papers. My life in facts. Statements I memorize that I know to be true, retellings from family, doctors, and friends. Your space in my mouth is routine. Spitting out facts from the inside of my cheeks. Hobbies and birthdays, sicknesses, where I was raised, my middle name. Okay, and the last one. This one's a bit of a surreal piece, and it's some context. It's about when I was really sick and I was struggling to walk. This is called You May Feel Like the World is Spinning Around You. Things like other things. Crickets that string violins with their wings and willow trees cracking like spaghetti. Shooting stars that fizzle out above you before you can close your eyes to wish. These sounds subdued with my cheek against the ground, my pores filled with granules of concrete. They said that summer I walked like I was drunk. I've never been drunk, not that I remember. I was pressing my palms into sidewalk when arms lifted me up. I said, how does everyone do this? How do they balance when they walk on spinning sidewalks? When their only heirlooms are rocks slipping between their fingers? When the cracks between concrete tiles quicksand my toes numb up to my ankles, and gripping the ground for support only lets the earth swallow up my fingers and my wrists of rock. Yay. Thank you.
Okay, so it's 7:30 and we'll be back at 7:45. So we can take a short rest and we'll be right back.
That's so good. Like, like all these unrelated things, but you're like, my slogan is movement.
Okay, and we are back. To start things up, the second half, we have our one of our managing directors. So the person responsible of tracking the whip while other people cower behind her. Ellie Boland. Yes, that's the right one. She's an avid reader and writer of fantasy, and devours everything from wholesome, cozy fantasy to pretty grim, dark tales. Originally from London, she recently left her management role in the city and relocated to Edinburgh to pursue a postgraduate degree and to complete the manuscript of her debut dark fantasy novel. She has previously worked as a copywriter and in the editorial department of her independent publishing house. So give it up for Ellie.
I would love to say that this piece is a bit more uplifting than all the others that we've had, but it's a piece of cool parade. I wish I'd just killed that fucking bird. None of it would have happened if I had. It would have been kinder for the creature, and it would have saved my brother, saved both of us from exile. I should have snapped its tiny, feathery neck when it fell out of the sky and landed at my feet, broken wing bent backwards and twitching furiously. That was the thing. It landed at my feet. Felix was a few paces behind. I could have put an end to its suffering and tossed the dead bird into the bushes for the foxes to find, and that would have been the end of it. But I bent down and picked it up, even as its nasty little beak pecked my fingers and snipped the skin open while it soiled itself in fear, until blood and bird shit ran hot and sticky down my arms. And then Felix had come running over, his bright brown eyes wide with curiosity. "Oh no," he cried, and immediately scooped the bird out of my hands, not caring about the mess. It stopped struggling as soon as Felix held it, as if it sensed something in him. He'd uncoiled his scarf and wrapped the bird snugly inside, dodging my hands when I tried to stop him and ignoring my protest that he would catch a cold. He'd cradled it the whole walk home and made a nest for it out of blankets by the fireplace, only interrupting his vigil to treat the cuts on my hands. I always thought his gift would be healing. He has more kindness in his little finger than a grown man has in his whole body. On winter nights, when the frost strangled our crops and my fingers were too numb to draw my hunting bow, I would go without dinner to make sure he ate well. But Felix would refuse to touch a single bite until I served myself a helping. Gifts were often hereditary, but we knew he wasn't destined to be a caller like myself and our parents had been. We could pull the wind to soothe us during the blistering heat of summer, or pull the storm clouds when the crops were parched and desperate for rain. But when Felix tried to sing, things tended to run in the opposite direction. It didn't matter. The village didn't need two callers, but healers were always useful. So I let him bring the bird home and tend to it, quietly hoping that his gift would finally manifest and he would heal the broken wing. He stayed up all night, keeping it warm and feeding it mushed up berries. And when dawn came and the bird was dead, it broke Felix's heart. I resented the stupid thing for dying and causing him so much pain. He'd been too young to understand when our parents died, and this was his first dealing with death. I watched grief twist the spray of freckles on his cheeks into a mask of sorrow and drown them in salt water as he sobbed, burying his face in the dead bird's feathers, its neck hanging limp from his arms. His every cry was a barb in my heart, and I couldn't stand it. In my desperation to comfort him, I didn't notice the darkness spreading through our huts until it snuffed out the sunlight. A strange, earthy smell filled my nostrils and scratched at my throat. It was so cloying, it felt like someone had stuffed a handful of soil into my mouth and I was choking on it. Then I realized the smell was coming from Felix. His beautiful brown irises had disappeared, and his eyes were white, pure white, as if they had rolled all the way back in his head, and his skin was webbed with a tangle of black veins. And then the dead bird twitched. I could hear the sickening pop of its tiny bones, and I scrambled backwards as it leapt out of Felix's arm and landed on its side. Its wing was still broken and jutted out at a grotesque angle, but it didn't seem to hurt the bird anymore. Felix gasped, and his sobs morphed to laughter as he picked it up and set it on its feet, where it tottered and dragged its crippled wing across the floorboards. The lights had returned, and the black veins on Felix's skin had disappeared, but I could still taste runts of soil on my tongue. The soil of an open grave with a decaying body inside. I was so paralyzed with shock that I wasn't quick enough to stop him when he took the bird and ran outside. Look, look, it's alive. I brought it back to life, he gleefully declared to the neighbours. I regained my senses and sprinted after him, clapping a hand over his mouth. But it was too late. The neighbours took one look at the bird's vacant stare and broken wing. Maybe they caught a whiff of the soil, and I saw the horror boil into murderous intent. No village wanted to house a necromancer. I grabbed Felix's hand and ran for the woods. That was a few days ago. There are others now, a little parade of dead animals that follow us. Felix insists on reviving every corpse he finds. A badger, a fox, a rabbit. He feels guilty leaving them behind, he says. I don't have the heart to stop him. The bird is definitely the worst. It knows I don't like it. It stares at me with its dead eyes, and sometimes it flies into the back of my head, and its talons tear into my neck before it falls to the ground. I don't know why it can't just walk or waddle like the rest of them, but it keeps trying to fly. Maybe it's punishing me. Maybe I deserve it. If there had to be a necromancer in the family, it should have been me. Thank you.
Our second reader of our second round is Erica Worthy. Right here. She says in her bio that she's a cancer through and through, and she was born and raised in California. And then she adds that nothing of hers has been published. That could differ. And she's unsure of how to describe her style. I think I can say that she likes writing ghost stories, and she likes gothic elements in her writing. So let's see if that any of that pops up in this next piece. Erica?
So he speaks from first-hand experience, but reading all of my work in many stages of progress, including this poem. This is called A Dream That Never Ends. As I wake before I open my eyes, I reach out to the right. There is nothing. My arm hangs over the edge of the bed like it's a chasm. I must have fallen asleep on the wrong side, so I roll right and reach out, expecting the tips of my fingers to run ever so gently over every vertebrae of his spine, his skin warming my cold touch. Oh, that warmth. I'll seek it like Icarus to the sun, tucking myself under his arm, safe and warm. Our breath mingling together. Here I know love. Here we are together. Life is as it should be because he loves me. I roll left and reach out, and I find I've hit a wall. I open my eyes and see the want that stands beside me, sterile, white, and cold. If I roll right, I'll roll off the edge. I am back in another twin-size bed, in another dorm room, in another country, at another college. He is not here. I am not safe and warm. Under his arms, he does not love me. He only exists in my head. Thank you.
Our next reader just got back from Cove Park. She had a lovely weekend, and she got to writing. It's well and good because she's won a lot of prizes, and I want some credit for that. for the next piece, I mean. Holly Sargent is originally from Bracknell, England. Edinburgh in 2019 to pursue, 2019, sorry, it's coming up, to pursue an undergraduate MA in English literature. During this time, she was awarded runner-up for the Lewis Edwards Memorial Prize, and her writing for theatre was performed at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. She has a particular passion for contemporary Scottish writing and the Gothic tradition as well, so kindred spirits. And these interests are combined in her writing to explore interpersonal issues with a folkloric twist. Holly?
Tales and ballads, possible boundaries, Gothic mythologies. There are no easy answers. I've looked in all the obvious places, and every time I draw a blank. It's a good thing the library is open 24/7. 3 a.m. rolls around, almost everyone is gone. It's a fluorescent light wasteland, bordered by endless dark corridors and books. There's a table of girls dozing with those spongy airplane pillows tucked around their necks. The lid of the pizza box flaps wearily, buffeted by the aircon. I wish I could. I'm not sure when I last ate. I'm just so busy these days. I cast my discerning eye over the slackers and get back to my books. The tower is perilously tall now, but I feel strangely proud watching it grow. It's evidence, bloodshed, proof of how hard I'm trying to find you. The next book is bound in red leather. The pages are brown and drifting from the spine. Celtic werewolves. Think fur, inexplicable rages, strange and sudden disappearances. It's no good, I can't see it. Not you, Sylvia. I breathe out and my insides collapse. My shoulders sag. My eyes are itchy, with sleep or maybe tears. But why tears when there's so much hope left? That last day, we'd gone thrifting in Sylvia's favourite vintage store. She's into all that, the weird stiff fabrics and sweet pastel shades, the costume jewellery and dusty glamour. I entertained myself by trying on the novelty sunglasses, while she wound pearls round and round her neck and flaps about in puffy skirts. I was slipping on a pair of heart-shaped lenses when she called my name. She was holding a cascade of silvery fur, short, spotted white in some places, like some kind of pelt. What the hell, I said. Is that a rug? She called me an idiot and unfurled it, slipping her arms inside. It was a coat, ankle length, velvet and luxurious. I can't remember anything about the precise cut, except that it fit her like a second skin. I gasped and waggled the hot glasses at her. She pressed her lips together, smothering a smirk that kept on preening. I loved her confidence, her arrogance, the sparkle of her twirl in a room full of people. We went to the till together, and she pinched the glasses right off my head. Those are too big for your face, she said. And they were, I can admit that. But I'm wearing them now, and they really dull the old thoughtful lighting. I went back last week to buy them in Edinburgh. The cleaners wake me up around 6. They nudge a Hoover around me and open the windows, and I'm grateful. It has got a little stale in here over the past few days. My comrades are awake too. One of them is chewing a pizza crust in deep contemplation. I'd better get a move on. I push the heart glasses into my hairline and treat myself to a glimpse of sunrise burning red over the rooftops. Morale, so important. Psychopathology, body beyond the law, Andrina and other stories. Sylvia loves Jordan Brown. She was leafing through Andrina the first time I saw her, chewing on her pen and scribbling in the margins. Orkney. Waves, isolation, the crash of water against rocks. That has to be something. Our first date, we caught the bus to Portobello, Sylvia's choice, and walked along the beach in the freezing cold. Her hand was like ice, and her lipstick left an imprint in her coffee cup. So charming, so endearing. Stay focused. And she was so sweet in the beginning. The way her hair stood on end in the morning, the crush of her eyelids as she squinted in the southern light. I never complained when she drank juice from the carton or left clumps of hair in the shower. She didn't like my friends, or the way I checked off on her. You're smothering me, she said, and then she disappeared, just like that. Shetland tales, the island of the women, the Selkie wife. It's obvious. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. I see her standing there on the winter beach, wrapped in her fur coat, gazing at the sea. and I just know. I'm there again, face to face with the ocean. The cold air stings my lungs. I'm breathing out steam rapid clouds of it. She isn't here, of course she isn't. The promenade is deserted, but I know the game now. I know what I have to do. I take my shoes off, and the sand breaks against my skin. My footprints sink, leaving a trail all the way down to the surf. The tide splashes over my feet, and the pain is sharp, and then there's nothing at all. The cold is numbing, clarifying. George Mackay Brown wrote about selkies. Sylvia was right. I am an idiot. To mistake her skin for a rug, how stupid of me. How insulting. I suffocate as her keeping her with me. I should let her go, and go home to my empty flat, the unmade bed, the space she left. And that's the thing, isn't it? I'll never find another Sylvia. There is no one like her. These other girls, they turn their noses up at me. I'm not good enough. I'm not. And Sylvia is under the waves, wrapped in her fur, safe from harm. Light shining through the water, her black eyes. Does she remember me? Does it matter? God, I'm so cold. It's laughable, isn't it? The whole thing from start to finish. Me and her, the very idea of us. Me swaying in the shallows, facing down the whole entire ocean. I tried to go wildstorm once and I chickened out. The North Sea wind was nothing to sneeze at. The sky is practically black, or maybe that's the glasses. The horizon melts into the water. The horizon has her. You've got to believe me.
Okay, we're down to our last reader, but before we get to her, I want to thank Myri and Mohammed for having us. Thank you for today's and for including our book amongst all these. We're very happy. So thank you very much, Mohammed. And Myri, I don't see her, but she's thank you as well. And thank you all for coming as well. This is fantastic turnout. We're very happy. We're going to end in, if not more uplifting, at least funnier. And since we're all wearing masks, this is a callback to the time where we all had to. But before we get to that, let me tell you who our next reader is. Di has published 3 children's novels with Scholastic under the umbrella title of Warning. We have Warning, Aliens Are Invading the School, which was shortlisted for the Roald Dahl Funny Prize and Glenn Dimplex Awards in Ireland. Warning, Computers Are Eating My Friend, which happens, which was shortlisted for the Big Red Book Award and featured in the female comic. And they were all made into audio recording for the BBC. She has also published several shorter pieces in various publications, including The Moth and Wild 366 book, also Scholastic, alongside an eclectic mix of authors, including Gordon Brown, Rhodey Doyle, and Anne Klein. She has been shortlisted for BBC Opening Lines and published articles on the mis-selling of financial products and the trafficking of women in the UK. So she has range. She's currently scouting for an agent. There's any agents here tonight to take on her latest adult book, which is best described as high concept political satire. Di?
Second, thank you to the Lighthouse, and thanks so much to the artists. So, a week or two into that brief issue, Gloria's Sake, Lockdown 2020, a note appeared on my doormat, not especially welcome, it was from the school. But that was the great thing about lockdown, antisocial with new positivity.
Others could walk out of it grey-haired and dishevelled if they liked. I was working on my pupil phase. Mornings, I did the beach body in the garden. Afternoons, I worked on the novel that I'd always knew I'd had trapped inside me, but I gave it some serious thought anyway. Evenings were spent expanding my horizons with unlikely box sets while striving the ultimate. I read Wind's Note with serenity. After all, it couldn't be an unwelcome invite, could it? Apparently, Alan had taken up baking and was making too many cakes for them to get through. Wyn hoped I didn't mind, but she had left one for me on our doorstep, on my doorstep. This was mildly intriguing. Wyn and Alan were the epitome, well-off retirees. They marked poster pin-ups, target market for Wayfair and Viking river cruises. I doubted Alan even popped his own toast. Yet the cake was surprisingly impressive. 3 tiers, no less, practically wedding standard, with cream-coloured icing and overlay of piped mauve lattice work, little sugar violets in the centre of every diamond. There had been a bit of a, let's say, icing kerfuffle on one side, but tasted nice, light, and surprisingly piloty. Anyway, perhaps my thank you note was rather too. Just 2 days later, we dropped off another one. Yummy, admittedly, with crushed honeycomb and mascarpone topping. But really, as I said in my second thank you note, in which I returned the little bee decorations, too much for one person. I was only halfway through the first one. Anyway, let's see what I write. Oddly enough, that cake too had a bit of an icing kerfuffle on one side, and I wondered if Alan was having turntable issues. Anyway, after that, Wyn got in a bit of a bind. By then, Alan was making up to 3 cakes a day. Wyn told me loudly from 2 meters across the garden fence, and the neighbours on the other side had said they were diabetic. But presumably to have been Alan's creations immediately upon completion seemed too harsh, because Wyn started putting them in the garden. But quite normal at first. Peppermint, flower and animal themed, peppermint, flower and animal themed, iced raspberry tart, the kiddie cake where sweets fall out of the middle, a flat one with lumpy decorations, which Wyn, whose greys were quite prominent by then, said were marzipan mermaids that Alan had made himself. But by mid-May, their garden was obliterated beneath a lurid paperclips, a massacre of pastel unicorns, train crashed from castle, floods of neon jelly, mashed cherries, dead fairies, edible gold leaves, spun sugar, black licorice, an eerie dead tree with chocolate matchstick branches, polluted Toblerone rocky shore, high-rise with Biscoff windows, and something completely covered in eyeballs that Wyn said Alan had made himself out of very thick jelly, edible pen, and gobstoppers, all melting inauspiciously in the sun, and always through their French windows that relentlessly smell of baking. Birds arrived in their hundreds. Even by night there was a constant squawking and flapping of wings. The seagulls in particular took on the hues of M&Ms, while rats, too fat to function, collapsed pitifully in cavities of ready roll icing. But I didn't like to say anything. Wyn had enough on her plate. Nonetheless, I was seriously wondering how one does contact an overstretched mental health service about someone who makes too many cakes, when things took an upward swing. Lockdown restrictions had eased by then, and Wyn, able to leave her house at last, had sought sanctuary in the church. I did try ringing the doctor. She said that I was 127th in the queue. So when a nice lady from St. Saviour's suggested an exorcism, I thought, why not? I mean, we had to do something, didn't we? And oh my goodness, it was and it worked. I said this was the second week in June, and Wyn, sweating in the sun and a pair of pink washing up gloves, was finally scooping cakes into garden refuse sacks. I'm not going to lie, she said. It was a struggle. Poor Alan. He breathed in that much holy water, they had to resuscitate him twice. But it had to be done. A landmark case of demonic possession, they called it, cakery. Apparently there's stones half like a small evil times. I imagine I eyed her skeptically over the top of my sunglasses. And you don't think it could just have been the strain of lockdown? I tried wincing as a gangrenous giraffe's head impacted horribly with the sack. No, said Wynne. She went and got Alan's phone to show me. I always did wonder why he posted the bad sides, she said, in the tone of a cheated on wife. And now we know, don't we? I'm not going to lie, like Wynne. As soon as you enlarged Alan's Instagram pics of the icing kerfuffles on the sides of his cakes, it was there, as clear as day, a little smirking devil's face peeking out from each and every one. By November lockdown, what Vita had to help out in getting COVID, I needed another keeper face, and Alan had been doing quite well up until then, took up crafting. Wynne didn't even wait for the roadmap. On Christmas Eve, she took advantage of the three families' 7-day rule and went to move in with her sister, as she said. There's only so much demonic possession a marriage can take. And the truth was, he wouldn't even notice she was gone.
What enviable memory.
Yeah.
One last thing. Come take a look at our demonic possessions, our different, yes. Everyone has their own obsession, their own cakes that they fill their gardens with, and some of them are here. So come take a look before you leave. And since now we have a physical copy, and you my pen, and you can get all these autographs. So thank you again, Lighthouse, and thank you all.